Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from NervGen Pharma, a biotech company dedicated to developing solutions for treatment of nervous system damage. Please note you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Mike Kelly, President and CEO of NervGen Pharma Corp, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol NGENF and on the TSXV under the symbol NGEN. Welcome, Mike.
Good morning and good afternoon, depending on your time zone. My name is Mike Kelly. I'm President and CEO of NervGen Pharma. NervGen was founded in 2018 with the hope of enabling nervous system repair. We're based in Vancouver with offices in the United States. We went public on the TSX in 2019, and shortly thereafter we're listed in the OTC. Before I get into today's presentation, I'd like to remind everybody that this is not a solicitation or an offer. I will be making some forward-looking statements. Those forward-looking statements may cause the results to differ from what's in the presentation by some risk factors that are listed in our public information, our annual information, our short form-based shelf prospectus, and our financial statements that are listed on sedar.com. Let me first start off by talking about some highlights of NervGen. As I mentioned earlier, NervGen is positioned to revolutionize treatment for a broad range of therapeutic indications. NVG-291 is our first potential drug, and it's the first-in-class neuroreparative drug that has the ability to allow the body to repair nervous system damage. And I'll go into greater detail about how it works in a few minutes. It has demonstrated improvement in several different disease models, and all of these diseases are high unmet medical needs. We'll talk about several of them today, but our primary focus as a company is spinal cord injury. We are approaching an inflection point in the company's life where we hope this year to start our proof of concept phase 1b/2a study in spinal cord injured patients. That trial is expected to roll later this year, and due to the short duration of this trial, we're expected to have a readout of results in 2024. Let me talk a little bit about the history of the technology from NervGen. Many on the call may know Dr. Silver. Dr. Jerry Silver made three major discoveries that had led to us in licensing the product from Case Western. Dr. Silver's from Case Western University. The first discovery was back in the 1990s, where he discovered that CSPGs, chondroitin sulfate proteoglycans, is a group of molecules that really inhibit neural tissue repair. In 2009, in a collaboration with Harvard, Dr. Silver and his team identified a receptor, PTP sigma, that is abundant in brain and spinal cord tissue. And it's also involved with CSPGs, and they cause the body to not only protect the nerves, but at the same time inhibit neural repair. In 2015, Dr. Silver's team designed a peptide, NVG-291R, which is R stands for the rodent version, 291 is a humanized version, that has been shown to relieve CSPG-mediated nervous system repair, and I'll get into the mechanism of action of the product shortly. In 2018, as I mentioned earlier, the company was founded by our first in-licensing of this compound. So what is 291? It's a cell-penetrating peptide made up of a length of 35 amino acids. It's designed to cross cell membranes and enhance cellular uptake. It's delivered subcutaneously, daily. It's manufactured by chemical synthesis, and we do have a family of compounds that are in discovery that are focused analogs with new chemical compositions of matter to improve upon IP and other molecular entities. So how does it work? I talked earlier about the glial scar. This is a cartoon of a nerve injury, either in the brain or the spinal cord. The purple lines that you see are nerves, and the glial scar, when you have damage, a glial scar is formed, and that glial scar is abundant with CSPGs. And the repair mechanisms that inhibit the body by CSPGs are plasticity, axonal regeneration, and remyelination. When NVG-291 is introduced, it inhibits or it allows the body to repair itself. It targets the glial scar, and it allows plasticity, and we have demonstrated plasticity, axonal regeneration, and remyelination occurs in the presence of 291. So if you have this mechanism, you have the ability to treat many different disease states. Shown here is a Venn diagram of injury to nerves as well as disease for nerves, and these are the diseases that NervGen is focused on, with our primary focus today being on spinal cord injury. Why spinal cord injury? But this is a huge unmet medical need. It's one of the founding cornerstones of the company, and there's no currently FDA-approved drugs to enhance functional recovery. Our goal is to improve motor, functional, and sensory function so folks have the ability to regain some of their life back. It has unprecedented results, preclinical results, and due to the size of the market and due to the impact of this disease without having any other products available, we will be filing for fast track designation later on this year. Let me give you a little bit about the individuals who suffer from spinal cord injury. Typically, 78% of these individuals are male, average age is 43, and they have an event. They have an event that's caused 78% of the time. It's either a vehicle or a fall, and it changes their life forever. They are typically hospitalized for 2 to 3 months. They get surgery for decompression of the spine, and then they begin the long recovery of rehabilitation. Some do recover, but typically most folks will plateau. And then they also suffer depression as well as other medical issues and economic issues, which I'll talk about now. There's about 18,000 new cases each year in the United States, roughly 300,000 people living in the United States today with spinal cord injury, and the worldwide incidence is between 250 and 500,000. The economic impact, is tremendous. I mentioned earlier the 2 to 3 months rehabilitation. That cost is about $200,000 per patient. Over the lifetime of the patient, it's between $1 and $4 million. Economically, it all depends on the severity and the age that the individual had the injury. And in addition to the economic cost, these folks have a shorter life span. They also have a higher rate of unemployment, higher chances of bankruptcy. Some of the preclinical data that got us very excited to explore spine are on this slide here. Let me walk you through this. These are 2 different studies. There's the study on the left looks at a rodent model in acute spinal cord injury, and acute meaning within 1 day of post-injury, we started to treat the rodent. And you can see based on the graph here, this is a BBB scale, which is a validated scale of locomotor function. And if you look at the vehicle, which is the bottom blue line, that is an untreated rodent. And you can see that they do recover, but when NVG-291R is introduced, there's significant recovery. And the stars, the asterisks at the top of each of the bars looks at the statistical significance at each individual time point. If you look at the right side of the slide, it's a different study done by Dr. Milton, who looked 12 weeks post-injury to see if we could, after this recovery period we're seeing on the left, if we could still have an enhanced impact. So it's measured by a different scale. So I just wanted to make sure that folks know that the scale on the left and the scale on the right are 2 different rating scales. The scale on the right is the four-limb locomotor scale, which also measures function as a validated scale. But you can see that there has been improvement even post 12 weeks of injury. And the more exciting is post 20 weeks of injury, after stopping the treatment period, there's continued relief with the 291 treated rodents. Another study that was conducted looked at bladder function, and this is a very important issue with individuals who have suffered a spinal cord injury. And in this study, with very low doses, this is about 1/10 of the dose that we're going to be using in our clinical trial, you can see that bladder function has improved dramatically. So where are we with this product? We've actually exited preclinical trials in rodents. We just completed our phase 1 clinical trials, and we've submitted our study reports to the FDA. Those trials are summarized here on this slide. 37 subjects in the single dose, 33 subjects in the multiple ascending dose. The results of these studies, all of the patients tolerated the doses very well. There were no treatment discontinuation, no serious adverse events. The only adverse event that was demonstrated in these trials was injection site reaction. When you're giving a daily injection, that's to be expected. But there were no clinically significant effects relating to 291, which gives us hope that we can move forward. This is the design of our next study, which we are preparing now and hopes to start shortly. It'll be 2 cohorts, a chronic cohort of patients who've had injury for 1 to 10 years post. So our treatment is going to be 1 to 10 years post their injury. A subacute cohort where patients have been injured 10 to 49 days. This drug is going to be administered daily. These patients are going to be followed for 16 weeks, 12 weeks on treatment, 4 weeks with non-interventional treatment. All patients will be exercising. We'll be assessing electrophysiological measures. It's going to be conducted in Chicago, and the primary endpoint on the top right-hand side of the slide here is hand and muscle group and leg group functionality and connectivity. Our secondary endpoints we have a plethora of secondary endpoints that are a hierarchy of both combined clinical and electrophysiological endpoints to measure muscle movement and improvement. We also have some exploratory endpoints such as spasticity and plasma biomarkers. So we're very excited. We're looking at everything in this trial to see if we can get signals and monitor those signals over time. That study was designed by Dan Michael, our Chief Medical Officer, in collaboration with a first-class group of clinical advisors listed here on the slide. We are very fortunate to be at the forefront of spinal cord injury and able to attract such a highly regarded group of individuals. The team behind NervGen is listed here on the page. We all have 20 to 30 years of experience. As I mentioned, Dan Michael in the middle of the page, he designed our clinical trial, but everybody is an experienced biotech/pharma executive for many, many years. Some of the upcoming value drivers for our company. We are expecting to announce a non-dilutive funding partnership for this upcoming clinical trial. We hope to announce that in the not too distant future. As I mentioned earlier, we submitted our protocol to the FDA as well as our phase 1 clinical study results. So we're expecting FDA clearance to initiate this trial. After that FDA clearance, we're also currently in the process of IRB review. We expect to announce IRB approval. And then first patient enrollment is targeted in Q3 of this year. The 2 cohorts that I mentioned earlier, the acute and the chronic cohort, we're expecting that the chronic cohort will enroll faster because there is a pool of these individuals already waiting for a treatment like this. And we expect that chronic cohort will enroll and we'll have results 6 months after the last patient in, which we expect to be in 2024. I'll stop here and see if there's any questions. Okay. Sorry, Okay, the first question is, how do you see your drug competing against electronic devices that aim to provide a digital bridge to restore some function to people with spinal cord injury? I don't believe that our drug is going to compete with these devices. In fact, I believe our drug will synergistically work with these devices. There are two very different mechanisms of action. One is pharmacological, the other one is through stimulation. And we believe that there could be a synergistic effect between these or with these different modalities. The second question is, what is the start date for the phase 2 trial? Currently, we are awaiting the FDA response on our phase 1 data as well as our IRB review. We expect to enroll in Q3 of this year. The third is, how about doing a presentation with Dr. Jerry Silver? We'll take that under consideration and potentially do that in the future. Thank you. The next question is, what fast-tracked FDA approval submission, with fast-tracked FDA approval submission later this year, what will the earliest you can bring NVG-291 to market? It's very difficult to say how quickly we'll be able to bring this product to market. We believe that if we have robust data in this clinical trial, that we will have to do one more clinical trial. And we'll have, obviously with discussions with the FDA, there's also other CMC factors that come into play. So it's very difficult for me to answer that question at this time. I'm gonna kick it down the road and answer it likely after the results of this clinical trial. Next question, you listed Alzheimer's as a disease that NVG-291 may be able to address. Can you please discuss? Yeah, we believe that this could be a disease that we can address based on the mechanism that we believe that NVG-291 has. We will, contingent upon funding, we will start preclinical trials in ALS. But right now, we believe that it is a disease state, one of the disease states that we would love to explore. Next question. How much will the trial cost, and will the non-dilutive funding partnership cover the cost? The trial is going to cost roughly $8 to $9 million, and the funding will not cover the entire cost, but it'll cover a nice portion of that trial. And you'll see the amount when we announce it in the press release. Next question. Is your drug patented? If so, when did the patents expire? I believe on a previous slide I mentioned the patent life. If I can go back to one of the slides in the beginning. Sorry for jumping around here. Our patents extend to 2037, listed here. Can you be more specific about when P1 was submitted to the FDA? It was submitted, our phase 1 clinical study results were submitted in Q2. Next question is, if you can repair nerves, then you can help with patients with other diseases of the nervous system, MS or Alzheimer's. We believe we can, and these are definitely two diseases that I listed in the Venn diagram that I showed earlier, that we would love to be able to start preclinical trials in. Okay. Next question is, oh, it just jumped. Do you have any partnerships in place and capital needs for clinical trials? Currently, we do not have partnerships in place, and we are a development company, so we will always have capital needs to do clinical trials. If you go back to the Venn diagram that I tried to put up earlier, these are some pretty significant clinical trials that we would have to conduct, both preclinical and clinical. So we will have capital needs moving forward. Our goal or our target right now is to get spinal cord off the ground, get proof of concept, and we believe that once we show proof of concept, the interest in the company and the product will grow significantly, and we'll be able to use that and leverage funding for all of these future indications. Let me just make sure I got all of the questions answered here. I think that's it. I think I answered every single question that's on the board. If I didn't answer your question for some reason, it got lost in the mix, feel free to reach out to us. Bill Adams, the CFO, and I are doing one-on-one calls at the end of or on Monday, and they're being scheduled as we speak. So it was a pleasure speaking to you today.